You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Welcome, fellow patriots. Get ready for an hour of unabashedly pro-American, pro-conservative, and pro-biblical principles. This is the Blake Johnson Program.
Welcome to it. This is the Blake Johnson Program on the Lanterns Radio Network. Great to have you here on this wonderful Monday evening. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe we are actually still existing on this earth. How in the world is this planet still functioning? How is life itself still here? I mean, you know, what with the net neutrality deal, with President Trump saying I have a bigger nuclear button than yours, Kim Jong-un, and then, you know, with some of the climate change things, and then, oh my gosh, with this government shutdown. How are we not all dead? How are we not all deceased? It's a miracle. It's a miracle. And I was actually getting kind of hopeful because I could have gotten out of work this coming week and weekend. That would have been nice. But, well, you don't always get what you want. Or do you? But, no, it is good to have you here. I hope you've enjoyed your weekend. I really enjoyed my week last week. It was so nice. I have to tell you, it was so amazing. I got my first root canal done. That was fun. I actually knew for a while that it was going to happen. I just didn't say anything because I didn't really want to think about it, because I hate going to the dentist, as I'm sure most people listening now, you can relate to that. You do not like going to the dentist, the doctor, any of that stuff. You don't like getting shots. You don't like needles. Needles don't bother me too much, but I don't necessarily want to look at it as it's being jammed into my arm. But when it comes to dentists, I really do not like going to the dentist. And it's nothing personal. And I feel the same way if I see a commercial about teeth or, you know, dental hygiene or anything like that. I'm just like, I don't want to see it. I want to see it. I don't care. I don't know why, but I just don't. I guess it's because getting a toothache, even just getting a toothache, is one of the worst things for me, because it follows you wherever you go. So does a headache, but tooth is just, there's just something about it that is so irritating and borderline unbearable, depending on how severe it is. But I went and got that done, and I was nervous, really nervous about it, because for one thing, I'd never had it done before. But it went by pretty smoothly. I almost decided to Google, how painful is it to get a root canal, and I'm glad I didn't. Because knowing the internet, I could have gotten all kinds of different answers. But no, it went by pretty smoothly, just like getting a regular filling, except it just took longer. It didn't help when there were a couple times during the process when the dentist was like, well, that's not quite right. We got to work some more. I'm like, are you serious right now? We got to do some more. We got to do some more work. We got to do some more tinkering around. I'm like, please. You told me this wasn't going to be a big deal. Please do not draw this out. I just want to get out of here and be done. It also didn't help back a couple of months ago at church. Normally before the service starts, me and several others in the pastor will gather together, in the sanctuary and do like a little prayer circle before, the service starts. We start praying for Sunday school and the service itself, and for people who come, that kind of thing. Well, during that time before we started praying, someone said, yeah, could you pray for, she said, could you pray for my husband? Because he just got a root canal done, and he's really, I don't know if she said he was either really sick or he was in the hospital because of something that went wrong during the process. I'm like, I really don't need to know that. I do not need to be told that, because I knew what was coming for me. But yeah, no, it turned out just fine. So that's good. But I do have to get my wisdom teeth taken out. So the sooner January is over, the happier I will be. It's not a great start to 2018 for Blake Johnson. It really isn't. But being here helps with that. And also being alive. It's quite a privilege to just be living and breathing and not be, trying to find some sort of underground bunker to hide myself in, considering all the chaos that is going on. If you were to listen to the rhetoric from the left, if you were to, I don't know why you would do this, but if you were to gaze upon the commentary and listen to the commentary on CNN and MSNBC, you would think that the world is going to end tomorrow, based off of either what the Republicans in Congress do or not do, or what the president says or doesn't say. It's just all coming down. It's going to crash down. We are all doomed. But thankfully, that's not true. Or at least it was until I found out that they're making a reboot of Hellboy. And then that made me think the world probably is going to end pretty darn soon. Whew, man. But yeah, that's going on. Did you see? I'm sure you did. This is the just over 1 year anniversary of President Donald Trump being sworn in to the presidency. And man, I cannot believe it's already been just over a year. Hard to believe. I remember where I was. It was a Friday, so I was still in college. And I had a break in between. I don't know if I had any classes yet or not. The semester had just started. I may not have had any classes. Well, I know I didn't have classes during that period, but I knew I had free time to be able to go and watch the inauguration, because it's a big deal. No matter who is getting sworn in, it's a big moment in American history to watch, the at the time president walk away, and then the incoming president gets sworn in. I mean, the transition period, it's one of the things that I love about this country, and you hear it brought up over and over and over again. The peaceful transition of power. That's what people constantly brought up and constantly talked about, the peaceful transition of power. And it's a really good thing that we live in a country where that exists, and where we don't have to worry about violent coups or people trying to overthrow the government, people violently attacking one another. Of course, I was gonna say, I mean, there have been a lot of cases of violence, but there's been a lot of cases of violent rhetoric, particularly from the left. And I had the unfortunate privilege of being reminded of the anniversary of the Women's March, which took place, I think it was either the day of or the day after the inauguration. And boy, wasn't that a hoot. I don't know if you're like me, but when I saw that wonderful, wonderful event take place, I just thought, man, happy days are here again. Hope has once more returned to this country. Our founders would be so proud. So proud. And when I saw those vagina hats, I thought, yes, finally, someone understands how to create unity. Someone finally understands the proper way to bring forth a positive message that brings everyone together by wearing a genital hat and screaming profanities and holding up signs that say F Trump. That is quite amazing. And being able to witness such prominent and amazingly intellectual and inspiring figures like Madonna and Ashley Judd, but especially Madonna, get up and say, yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House. Oh, when I heard those words, I thought, yes. Oh my gosh, finally. Someone who knows how to speak and speak through peace and call for peace and unity. Cast aside all your divisions and let us come together as one under the common umbrella of stupidity. That, I tell you, I don't even know how people could consider that a legit success. It wasn't a success at all. What did it achieve? Well and truly, what did it achieve? I mean, I can understand, protesting the things that the president has said about women. And hey, listen, I know some others on the right don't want to talk about this, especially now because Trump has done some pretty good things as president policy-wise. But it is important to talk about because the demeanor of the president is very important. We made it a really big deal with Bill Clinton, we on the right. We should make it a big deal regardless of political affiliation. So if the Women's March, if all it was about was protesting what Donald Trump said about women on the Billy Bush tape, bragging about being able to grab women by their body parts whenever he wanted to, I would have stood with them, quite frankly. I would have said, I agree with you. I fully agree with you. But that's not what it was all about. Don't get me wrong, they definitely talked about it. They definitely trashed the president. But the overall underlying message that I got, just from seeing some of the main speakers and seeing, some of the crowd and the signs they held up, and just the overall mentality, the overall attitude, was a vicious attack against men. You had the radical feminists come and just tear up the place with their insanely ridiculous rhetoric. It's one thing to protest sexual harassment. It's one thing, a very good thing, to protest men who take advantage of women, who treat them like crap. Again, I'm fully there. I'm fully with you. It's quite another to say that men they are all pigs. They're all evil. They're terrible, and we have to bring them down. We have to, tell them to shut up and sit down. And I'm not saying they are all like that, but many, many of them are. Instead, what we should be talking about, not just the coming together and denouncing sexual harassment, by the way, not just from men towards women, but also from women towards men. With all those stories about female teachers sexually harassing their students, taking advantage of them. And that's a whole nother discussion. But it's sickening on both sides. Both sides. What we should also be talking about is what took place over the weekend with the March for Life rally. This, I think, is one of the most important rallies that takes place in our country. It's taken place in our country for the past 40-some years, 45 years. And the President Trump, was the very first sitting president to ever address the March for Life rally. Think of that, 45 years. Who all was president during those 45 years? At least, let's just make it about the conservative side. Let's call out our own side. You had people like Ronald Reagan, both George H.W. and W. Bush. And as far as I know, none of them said anything about the rally. Now, that's not to say that they were, for abortion or anything like that, but it's quite something when you think about the fact that of all the people, I would not have guessed that Donald Trump would be the one to not just become president, but to become president and then to address the March for Life rally, particularly when you take into account his past stances on abortion, how favorable he used to be towards it. But I believe he said during the campaign that, a friend of his that went through an abortion, they had an abortion, a friend or family member, and he just saw the incredible toll it took on them, and it just changed him. I think that's true. I mean, some could argue it was just a political tactic to win over people on the right who questioned his loyalty, who questioned his belief in the right to life. But especially when you consider what he said at the rally, I believe him. I believe that did change him. And it's good. It is good to change, especially on issues like that. Now, I'll take a break and come back, and I'm going to play for you just a piece of what he said at the March for Life rally, because it is important. As much as the rest of the media want to talk about what the evil Republicans are doing by shutting down the government, which, by the way, I don't know if you've noticed, but everything still seems to be up and running. I know, it may not seem like that. It may not. People don't want to believe that. Maybe they will want you to believe that, but everything's still working. It's still fine. Most of the government is still working, but I know they want to talk about that, and I know they want to talk about how stupid and evil Donald Trump is. But we have to focus on the really good things too, the things that really matter. So I hope you'll stay with us. Thank you for tuning in to the Blake Johnson program here on Lanterns Radio Network. I'll be right back.
March for Life is a movement born out of love. You love your families, you love your neighbors, you love our nation, and you love every child, born and unborn, because you believe that every life is sacred, that every child is a precious gift from God. In the United States, it's one of only 7 countries to allow elective late-term abortions, along with China, North Korea, and others. Under my administration, we will always defend the very first right in the Declaration of Independence, and that is the right to life. On the National Day of Prayer, I signed an executive order to protect religious liberty. Very proud of that. Today, I'm announcing that we have just issued a new proposal to protect conscience rights and religious freedoms of doctors, nurses, and other medical professionals. So important.
That was President Donald Trump over the weekend addressing the March for Life rally that took place in Washington, D.C. The very first president in the history of the March for Life rally, which has been a thing for the past 40-some years, to address specifically that rally with tens of thousands of marchers there and people volunteering and taking part and participating in this overall message of protecting the unborn, giving women another choice other than murdering a life inside their own body. The Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, introduced the President and said, "I believe with all of my heart that with your combined dedication and compassion, with pro-life majorities in the Congress, with President Donald Trump in the White House, and with God's help, we will restore the sanctity of life to the center of American law." President Trump went on to say, by the way, the entire speech, I believe you can watch it on YouTube, the White House channel on YouTube, they have it. I think it's about 12 minutes or so. It's well worth your time. But he says, "Today I am honored and really proud to be the first president to stand with you here at the White House to address the 45th March for Life. You come from many backgrounds, many places, but you all come for one beautiful cause: to build a society where life is celebrated, protected, and cherished. The March for Life is a movement born out of love. You love your families, you love your neighbors, you love your nation, our nation, and you love every child, born and unborn, because you believe that every life is sacred, and that every child is a precious gift from God. We know that life is the greatest miracle of all. Love saves lives. As you all know, he continues on, Roe-v-wade has resulted in some of the most permissive abortion laws anywhere in the world. For example, in the United States, it's one of only 7 countries, think of this, one of only 7 countries in the world to allow elective late-term abortions, along with China, North Korea, and others. And he says later on, most important of all is the gift of life itself. That is why we march. That is why we pray. And that is why we declare that America's future will be filled with goodness, peace, joy, dignity, and life for every child of God. Now, if you were listening to, which I don't know why you would do this, and I'm sure you don't, but if you were really that bored and decided to listen to the talking heads on some of the other networks, more specifically left-leaning networks, you either wouldn't hear anything about the March for Life, or you would hear about it, but it would be spun in a way to make it about anti-choice. In fact, I went on YouTube and watched part of this speech, and if you look at the one from CNN, from their channel, it says something like the president touts an anti-abortion message at the March for Life rally. I'm like, okay, well, that isn't biased at all. That's not telling you anything at all about where CNN leans in that direction. The same with, was it either The Guardian or the New York Times, maybe? I can't remember. There was another left-leaning news outlet that, said something like anti-choice or anti-abortion. And it's just amazing to me. It never ceases to amaze me. Forget my, viewpoint as a conservative. My viewpoint as a Christian, first and foremost. How in the world does anyone think killing an unborn child, how does anyone think that's a good idea? You don't even necessarily have to be a Christian to believe that's wrong. In fact, many people who aren't Christians believe that's wrong, because they know that life is sacred. Life is precious. But many on the left, and unfortunately some on the right, particularly the libertarian right, don't see it that way. They don't see it as a life that needs to be protected. They see it as, well, it's either just tissue. It's not really life anyway until it comes out of the womb. It's just whatever you want to call it, but it's not really. It's not the same thing as a full-grown adult. It's not. You can kill it. It's fine. Whatever. I don't know how you get to that place. You really have to deny so many things to get to that place where you think that's actually a logical standpoint. But nevertheless, many on the left believe that. Many on the progressive side, when it comes to cultural issues, when it comes to social issues, believe that. It's just amazing. Now, this is something I've found interesting. Some of these I didn't really know. But there are 7 pro-life policies that have been touted by the Trump administration, and I'll share with you some of the statuses on these. Not all of them are actually things that have been put into effect yet, but some of them have. For instance, the Stop the U.S. from Exporting Abortion Overseas. This policy was reinstated on January 23rd of last year, just like within a couple of days after the president was sworn in. He blocked the U.S. from funding health providers who perform or promote abortion services overseas. This order aligned with previous ones by Presidents Reagan and Bush. The policy has been interpreted more broadly than in previous years. Initially, it was estimated to affect $600 million in aid funding. Israel says, quote, "This policy does not cut global health assistance funding. It's saying that more than $8 billion in taxpayer funds will no longer be entangled with the abortion industry," end quote. So that's a good thing. Another one was the act of reversing the last-minute Obama administration pro-choice policy. This was signed into law on April 13th by the president. Another pro-life win came early in the presidency. Congressional leaders were dismayed by a last-minute decision by the Obama administration. It would have kept public funds flowing to Planned Parenthood despite state-level efforts to exclude the abortion provider. Planned Parenthood has recently been under investigation on several fronts, from Medicaid fraud to unethical practices like selling unborn baby body parts. Both the House and Senate passed a bill allowing states to make their own decisions regarding Title X of federal funding. Because of a 50-50 tie in the Senate, Vice President Pence cast the deciding vote. The third one, prohibit most abortions at 20 weeks fetal development. It was passed by the House on October 3rd of last year. And no Senate vote has yet been scheduled. This bill has been the most discussed priority among pro-life leaders. It was central in the 2016 letter sent to pro-life leaders. Pro-life advocates estimate the policy would save over 15,000 preborn lives annually. On October 3rd, House debates on both sides. That debate was impassioned. Representative Karen Handel of Georgia had the final word. "This is a good bill. It is a just bill," she said. "We are called as human beings to protect the lives of the most innocent." In a special election, Planned Parenthood's political arm spent $735,000 on behalf of her opponent. On the Senate side, Senator Lindsey Graham has introduced the bill. And you can read all this on stream.org. Some other things like ensure lives born after attempted abortions have a chance. And the vote for that was just a couple of days ago, and it passed, by the way, that's a really, really big deal. What this is, it's the Born Alive Infants Protection Act, passed with strong support in 2002. It even received unanimous consent in the Senate. And what this policy does is it mandates clinics provide medical care to infants who survive abortion. So and this has happened many times, where the infant will survive abortion, and instead of taking care of it, the nurse, the doctor, whoever, will just put it in a room by itself and just leave it there to die. How horrific. It just boggles the mind how anybody could do that to another living being. But this passed in the House, and they are now mandated to care for that child if they survive the abortion. However, abortion providers have not been held accountable. As I said, in recent years, Pennsylvania investigators found horrific conditions at an abortion clinic run by Kermit Gosnell, and absolute monster, that guy. And Melanie Israel, she says it provides consequences for healthcare providers who violate that 2002 law. And she also said it's pretty amazing how things have changed in the past 15 years. Back then, both parties protected born-alive infants. This week, I'm sure some people on Capitol Hill will vote against the bill. Well, it passed, so screw them. That's what I think. And there's a couple others on here as well. But the gist of it is, this administration has, you got to give them credit where credit is due, they've done some very good things when it comes to promoting the sanctity of life. And I do hope that they will go further, and they will work to get rid of the funding towards Planned Parenthood. That is still in place, and that has got to go. I will say, the president back when he campaigned, was very wish-washy on this. It didn't sound like he completely wanted to get rid of funding for Planned Parenthood, saying, they do some good things. Well, here's the deal. Planned Parenthood isn't the only, facility out there that can provide care for women. There are plenty of other clinics, plenty of other businesses and industries out there that do that. But Planned Parenthood should not be funded by your money and my money because they provide abortions. It doesn't matter what people on the left say about, it doesn't really matter, they don't really do that much. Bullcrap. Hundreds of thousands of babies are murdered each year by Planned Parenthood. They're responsible for multiple millions upon millions of dead. They are a infanticide, genocidal organization, and we should not be funding them. So, we've got to demand that the President of the United States and Congress get off their butts and get something done. Talk is one thing, but action is required. I'll be right back on the Blake Johnson program. We've got so much more to talk about, so stay tuned.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Welcome back to the Blake Johnson program. Thank you so much for stopping by, checking this show out. Hope you've been enjoying some of it, at least some of it, so far. And just want to give a shout out to some of my fellow Lantern patriots out there who do their own shows. And by the way, Lantern, in case you're new to this program, if you just recently started listening to the show or any of the other shows, it's not just the Lanterns Radio Network. We do have the radio side, but we are a website as well. Lanterns.buzz, lanterns.buzz. Go there, check out all the pieces that many people post on there about the news of the day, commentary, opinion, all different kinds of thoughts, all gathered together to promote liberty, freedom, the Constitution, biblical values, things of that nature. You'll get a lot of great stuff. Just check it out, lanterns.buzz. But yeah, absolutely, check out shows like The Defenders of American Exceptionalism by my buddies Dylan Lyles and Stephen Airy. Check out Common Sense Radio with AJ Davis and Susan Swift. Check out Battle for Freedom, Voice of Reason, Bells of Liberty. We've got so many great radio programs at your disposal, all for free at lanterns.buzz or on demand anytime through Spreaker, iTunes, iHeart Radio, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and YouTube. It's pretty much everywhere you can listen to a radio podcast. You can most likely find us there. Just search for Lanterns Radio Network, and you'll find us there. Okay. So I've been wanting to talk about this story for the past week, and it just broke just after my last broadcast, and it infuriated me. It's probably a good thing that a few days have gone by, so I've had time to chill a little bit. I mean, it's still unbelievable, and it's outrageous that this happened. And it makes my blood boil, and it will probably make yours boil as well if you have not heard this story yet. But this from Fox News, published on the 17th of this month. There was an illegal immigrant who began his murder trial recently for the 2014 killings of two Northern California sheriff's deputies. and he began it on Tuesday with a profanity-laced rant, calling a partner of one of the slain officers a coward. Prosecutor Ron Norgard recounted the events that led to the death of Sheriff's Deputy Danny Oliver outside her Sacramento motel in October of 2014, and described how Oliver's partner, Deputy Scott Brown, was able to retreat from the heavy gunfire. Luis Enrique Monroy Bracamontes, 37, the alleged killer, interrupted the court when he grinned and called Brown a coward. Bracamontes was scolded by the Sacramento Superior Court judge, the Sacramento Bee reported. He said, quote, the alleged killer said, "I wish I had killed more of those MFers." He continued, "I will break out soon and I will kill more, kill whoever gets in front of me. There's no need for an effing trial." Bracamonte's defense attorney cited the outburst as more evidence that their client is unfit to stand trial. I would argue he's unfit to live, but maybe that's just my flawed opinion speaking. His wife, 41-year-old Janelle Monroy, is also charged in the slayings. She argues that she was a victim, a victim of an abusive husband who frequently used drugs. Okay. Well, it's definitely possible considering this guy is insane, is evil. Bracamontes, who could face the death penalty if convicted, has had similar episodes in court in the past. He's from Mexico, and by the way, this is where the story gets so great. It just makes you so proud of our justice system and our immigration system. Bracamontes, he's from Mexico. But not just from Mexico, he has repeatedly entered the United States illegally. So he's an illegal alien. Repeatedly come here illegally, deported, come right back, deported, come right back. His wife, on the other hand, is an American citizen and faces life in prison if found guilty. Public defenders Jeffrey Barbour and Norm Dawson have unsuccessfully attempted to enter a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity and argued that it's unlikely their client will receive a fair trial due to the anti-immigrant sentiment encouraged by President Trump's hard line on immigration. The Associated Press contributed to this report. Yeah, I'm sure they did, considering that last paragraph. It seems like an open and shut case to me. I mean, here's a guy who murdered 2 police officers, is very happy about it, doesn't deny it, doesn't care, went with an outburst in court, said, I'll kill more of them, I'm going to break out, I'm going to kill more of those MFers. I'm glad I did it, I wish I'd killed more. I mean, to me, if I'm on that jury, you better darn well believe I'm going to find that piece of crap guilty. And yes, I will absolutely use the phrase piece of crap. I got into a rather, I don't know if I'd say heated, but it was definitely a impassioned discussion, if you will, about this story. Because I shared this piece on my Twitter feed, and I called him a despicable piece of crap. Now, I just want to throw this out there. I'm sure most of you don't need me to explain this, but apparently there are people, I'm not saying in this audience, but there are people in this world who are just that dumb and they can't understand the difference between calling someone out for being evil and also saying that they actually don't have any spiritual value whatsoever. Because one of my old college friends saw that and she was so offended. Oh my goodness. And she said, well, I know, I bet if this murderer wasn't an illegal immigrant, you would have scrolled right past this story and you wouldn't have cared. I'm like, and then she said, what does that say about you? And I'm thinking, oh, dang it, you got me. Oh my gosh, I was trying to hide it, but oh, alas, you figured out the truth. The only reason that I care about someone being murdered is when it fits my political agenda. You see, I don't care about cops. No. I mean, despite the fact that my dad used to be a cop, my uncle used to be a cop, other members of my family and friends have been or are cops, that doesn't make any difference. No. I mean, look, if a cop is killed, the only reason I care is when an illegal alien kills them. That's it. If it's anyone else, well, sucks to be you, doesn't it? Yeah, she found me out. Oh, now what am I going to do? No, that's not true. Here's the thing. Albeit, I will even submit it to you. Flawed the way I said it, sure. Maybe I shouldn't have called him a piece of crap. Maybe I should have just called him a meanie who deserves a timeout. Maybe that would have made her feel better. Maybe that would have made those on the left feel a little bit better about themselves, be able to sleep at night. But here's the thing. When I call someone a piece of crap, here's what I'm saying. I'm saying that their actions are disgusting, despicable, and evil. And because they embrace that, because they are happy about it, that means they are disgusting and despicable people. That's what that means. That does not mean that I believe that that person has no inherent value whatsoever, that God doesn't care about them, that God doesn't want to see them saved, that God doesn't want their life to turn around. That's actually not what that means. But too many are so overly sensitive. They can't handle any sort of criticism whatsoever, whether it's criticism of them or criticism of someone who they politically think that you shouldn't criticize. And that's really what this all comes down to. And I'm just using this as an example because maybe you already have, or maybe you will in the future come across someone who tries to trap you this way into being on the defensive and thinking, well, no, I'm a Christian. I love people. What are you saying? Why would you say that? No, that's not what this is about. What this really, and this is what many on the left do all the time, and I will say it because it is true, and those on the right do it too, and I've done it. That's how I can speak on this and say I understand what's going on here. What's going on here is someone, and I don't know if I've done this necessarily, but you get what I'm saying. Someone who disagrees with you politically tries to hide their political views behind a morality view. So, they don't like where you stand on an issue, on a political issue, like whether it's illegal immigration, whether it's healthcare, whether it's the size of government, whatever it may be. They don't like that. They don't like how you are against socialism, against big government, against the redistribution of wealth, so on and so forth. So, in order to make you feel guilty, they've got to throw in the morality card. They've got to say, well, you just must hate black people. That you have to hate those people. You don't care about them. Or you don't read the gospel. You don't really pay attention to your Bible. You're out of step with God and his authority because you believe this way. And that's where they take it. That's why you see those on the left use the race card and call you a racist. Or they will call you a homophobe if you are against gay marriage. And they will say, well, you just don't love. You don't love people. That's just the way it is. You don't love people. You don't want them to be together. You're against women. You don't want them to have a choice. You don't want pregnant women to be alive. You want them to die because of an unwanted pregnancy. You see, that's where they take it every single time. And you've got to be on the watch for that, because the left especially will do this every time. That's how they've been able to infect our education system. That's how they've been able to affect our government. That's how they've been able to infect Hollywood and many other aspects. And even some churches are becoming more and more tolerant of these progressive ideas, because they have been able to convince you that if you don't agree with their point of view, then there's something wrong with you, and you are part of the problem. It's not them. Oh no, it's not them. It's nothing they've said or done, or excused, or tolerated. Oh no, it is you and your backward thinking, your bigoted, redneck, stupid viewpoints. You are part of the problem. That's what all of this comes down to. And there are different degrees of it. I'm not saying that, this particular individual had all of those things in mind, but this plays into that. Maybe she knew she was doing it, maybe she didn't. But I'm just telling you, this is what happens. So, it's not like I'm so upset that she said these things. I'm just like, girl, you need to just get it together and just stop spreading lies, okay? I mean, this is a classic example of that. So, with that being said, I'm going to take a break and come back on the Blake Johnson program, which, by the way, is a tremendous show. It's a beautiful show. It's the best thing ever, a beautiful special program, unlike anything you've ever heard or seen before. That's what this show is all about. So, we'll do that when we come back on the Blake Johnson program. Stay tuned. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Blake Johnson program. Appreciate you stopping by this hour. Hope you've enjoyed the show. So today, it would be remiss for me to end the show without mentioning that today is the 45th anniversary of the legalization of abortion through roe-v-wade. Just, I think, honestly, one of the worst decisions ever made in this country. One of the definitely the worst Supreme Court decision ever decided in this nation. That an individual has the supposed right to murder an unborn child. And make no mistake about it, that's exactly what that is. Abortion is murder, plain and simple. You are taking away an innocent life, certainly without their consent, but a life that hasn't even had the chance to grow and to succeed and to make their own decisions. I just love this from Planned Parenthood. Oh my gosh, when you think of Planned Parenthood, you think of parents, don't you? You think of well-knit, loving families who just care for their family and for their children, don't you? That's what I think about when I hear of Planned Parenthood. But this wonderful organization, which we still fund, by the way, tweeted out, Sarah Weddington was 27 when she argued Roe v. Wade, the youngest person ever to win in the Supreme Court. Today is the 45th anniversary of the landmark case that legalized abortion in the U.S. Young people have the power to change the world. Oh, do they? Well, not if they're dead. They don't. Not if they're dead. Just sick. 60 million babies murdered since that decision, that horrific decision was made. And yet, we just act like, well, that's just the way it is. Oh, but women have the right to choose. Do they? Do they? Is this really about women's rights? What right do you have to take away an innocent unborn life? It's just ridiculous to me. But anyway, got a couple more stories for you before we head out, unfortunately. Oh, it's so sad. I don't like leaving. I really don't. I enjoy coming here and doing this. But, alas, it's coming to an end once again. This is a really funny story. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Hertz Donuts. Probably not very many if you aren't from Missouri, particularly the southern region. But the Hertz Donuts is I think it's more of a local donut place around this area. I don't know that it's widespread, but they recently set up a shop in Springfield, Missouri. And they had such an amazing response to this. I guess there's this trend going on with people eating or daring each other to eat laundry detergent pods. I don't understand why. I mean, yeah, it's colorful, pretty colors, but why would you eat laundry detergent. Why? Apparently that's a thing right now, and hopefully it's a short-lived thing. It actually might be a short-lived thing if you catch my drift with that one. oh man. But no, Hertz Donuts did something that is so funny. They put out a post a couple of days ago, and it says, "Stop eating laundry detergent. Laundry detergent equals not food. Donuts equal food." And what they did was they put a photo on the top of a laundry detergent pod, and it had the word "no" on it. Underneath is a picture of a donut that looks like a laundry detergent pod. It's got the purple and orange, crescent-shaped, on top of each other. And it even has on the inside, they opened one of them up, and it has like the blue little beads or whatever you want to call it that come out. And it's got the cream and stuff in it. It says, "We will even fill them for you with food, not laundry detergent. In the case at both locations today and tomorrow." This is exactly how you take a trend and make it your own. I don't know how well they're doing with that, but I would like to think you gotta believe that people are going down there to try that, just to try it. Just, you know what? Let's support you. That's awesome. One more quick thing, and I'm just bringing this up because I tell you, it just goes to show what happens when you rely too much on nostalgia and not enough on what the fans actually want and what makes for a good story. So, The Last Jedi, the newest Star Wars movie that came out, has not been doing so well in the box office overseas. It's made a fair amount of money over here, but overseas, especially in China, normally China, it makes a lot of money. I mean, I know most of the past Star Wars movies did very well overseas, particularly in China, but not the case with the new Star Wars. It's, in fact, tanked hard in China. In fact, it's experienced one of the worst second weekend collapses ever in the country. It says, let's see, according to The Hollywood Reporter, the latest Star Wars vehicle suffered one of the worst second weekend declines ever in the box office. The film debuted to $28.7 million. However, on its second weekend, it dropped a full 92%, making only $2.4 million over the next weekend. Jimmy Woo, chairman of nationwide Chinese cinema chain Lumiere Pavilions, said that some cinemas have already begun to pull the film Star Wars. Star Wars, guys. He says The Last Jedi has already been pulled completely from cinemas here. It performed much worse than we could have expected. Part of the problem has to do with the fact that the franchise never became the cultural milestone there as it did in the U.S. Back in 1977, China had barely recovered from the Cultural Revolution and suffered crippling poverty. Now that 40 years have passed, the country has little pop cultural familiarity with it, and since recent iterations bank heavily off of nostalgia, audiences are left scratching their heads and not really connecting with it. So yeah, I mean, I agree with that. You rely too much on nostalgia and not enough on original story. You're gonna get some losses. And I mean, look, they're doing fine right now. They're doing okay right now. But if they keep this up, this is gonna keep going downhill, and eventually fans are gonna be tired of it. Especially if you keep dishing one out every single year. That is going to burn out your fans, and they're going to get sick and tired of it. And you add to that the fact that they're doing so many things that the fans really just want something different. They want something new. But maybe that's just me. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of an interesting piece of entertainment news, if you will. Try to mix things up and bring different kinds of stories here on the program. But that is going to do it for the Blake Johnson program. Hope you've enjoyed the program. And hope you come back next week for another fabulous, fabulous show that you will just not get anywhere else. My name is Blake Johnson. Have a great week. Stay safe. God bless.